Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to be talking about base game Kislev because they've received a update. This is more towards the base game factions of Kislev, so Katerin, Konstantin and Boris Ursus, and I think it's actually quite good because it does make Kislev less soul-sucking. It's a massive issue where Kislev could not perform well, not only as a player-controlled faction, but also the AI, but we've seen some changes. Now, this is going to be a short video because, well, I'll be honest with you, there's really not that much to talk about. The first thing is that buildings that cost devotion no longer cost devotion. This is something tied to something else later on. There is a little bit of a benefit here. It does mean that you're going to use devotion less, which means that you can use that more on the supporters mechanic and obviously the invocations, because that's stuff that is fairly important for your campaign, especially as you are taking part in that race thing, which I do actually quite like, don't get me wrong. I think the race is a pretty interesting mechanic, but it can get kind of annoying when you're trying to catch up and so on. The other thing which you would have noticed is that you do have a new building. This is if you end up purchasing the Shadows of Change DLC, where you'll be able to recruit the Ashinka ambushers, the Thing in the Woods, the Incarnates, and the Hags. It will also provide you with a little bit of bonus in terms of economy, so it's multi-purpose, and that's obviously quite good considering that, you know, extra money, especially for Kislev when you're constantly under assault, it's quite nice. The reason why devotion isn't spent on buildings anymore is because you're going to be spending it with a new commandment. This is Magic Wards of Climate Change, and yeah, it sounds pretty silly, but yeah, I mean, what it does is you'll spend devotion and be able to nullify the chaos waste climate, right? This is something just in case you want to push up forward and deal with the chaos factions instead of having them constantly harass you. There's also some negatives of taking the climates, you know, minus control, minus growth, and all these really tough negatives, which, yeah, I mean, is not ideal to have when you're trying to expand your nation. You obviously can't push down south because there's the Empire, and the Empire is a potential ally for you. But yeah, it works. It's I'm using a cheat mod right now just to kind of make it go quicker so I could take over these locations fast. And to be honest, yeah, it's not too bad. It will go into the negative, and pretty much the negative there is just, you know, it'll summon chaos armies to attack you. But really, if you've got enough of the churches building up your devotion and you are actively fighting the chaos factions, you're going to have enough devotion to spare. So I wouldn't really think that that's something that's going to be too much of an issue. And maybe you want the chaos armies. At the end of the day, those chaos armies can help you level up some characters if you so wish. But yeah, as far as I've seen from my testing, and then obviously using some mods to kind of get there and so on, everything works as intended. I'm hoping it works the same way when it goes live. That's the main thing. What I will say is I had a little bit of a bug. I'm not sure if it was the cheat mod, which I very much doubt because it doesn't really go into too much of the database, but it did take an extra turn before the commandment actually came into effect. I don't know if that's going to be the case or it was just a once-off, because the other one worked perfectly fine in one turn, but I'm just pointing it out there just so you guys don't panic too much. The last thing, and something that I'm quite happy about, is that Kislev has been expanded a little bit, so obviously an extra settlement here and there. We covered that in the map changes, but the most important thing about this is that now you have proper provincial capitals, meaning that the oblasts themselves, the Southern Oblast for example, isn't just minor settlements, which was something that was really, really annoying, mostly because you have a lot of different buildings in Kislev, Erengrad, and Prague, and that meant that you couldn't really have everything. Now this means that you can expand, build up a military hub in those cities, but also enjoy all the interesting landmarks that Kislev has available to them, because there's so many landmarks in just the area of the three main capital cities. And now you don't have to worry, am I building enough of this? Am I building enough of that? Because in, say, Kislev, for example, you're already devoting 3 slots to the landmarks and 1 to the resource building, or sometimes you would just ignore the resource building. Now you don't have to ignore them. I think this is a really good change. This actually makes Kislev a lot better. I did see some people saying that they didn't like this, that it kind of went against the faction style of Kislev, but I will say, look, this is just going to be better for Kislev overall. This is why you're seeing them more aggressive. If you saw my 500 turn AI time-lapse, it shows that Kislev is now better as an AI to expand and actually stay alive. It's probably one of the reasons why we're seeing the order tide again, well, at least in that location of the world. But I think it's still pretty interesting because obviously Kislev died out so early that they were never really into the late game. So yeah, it's not a big update, but I will say from testing it last night after Creative Assembly put that little blog out, Yeah, I mean, it's fairly decent. They could have mentioned the building changes, though. It's a bit of a weird thing that they omitted that, as in that the settlements are now large. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of discussion. It's a shorter video because there's really not that much to talk about, but it's good. At least it's a good one, right? This is important. A good update is still better. I'd rather a small update that works than a large update that doesn't. With all that being said, have a good day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.